Hello everyone, it's Sean. I've had several requests for an operating session on the Black River Junction. In case you're not familiar with it, I'm going to show you the basic track plan here real quick. As you can see, it's a basic oval with a passing siding and a couple of industries in there. I do not have the section that my thumb is currently on because I don't have the space for it at the moment. I'll be operating without that today, and just to kind of show you that there are plenty of operations to go through. And instead of showing you on the map here where everything is on my layout, I'm just going to show you in person because I think it'll be a little bit easier for you to understand when I'm operating that area. So you're not trying to translate two-dimensional facing you like this to three-dimensional like that. So hopefully you guys like what you see. I'll be operating with my Digitrack Zephyr system. This is the Zephyr Extra, the DCS51. This has a full 3 amps of power. I also have 2 UP5 panels and 3 throttle holders around the layout, along with 2 buddy throttles. They are set for infrared and standard plug-in operation. Today I'll be operating with 2 locomotives. They are my 2 pride and joys I hold among everything else. One is an Athearn RS3, number 465 Milwaukee Road, and the other one is a Walther's Mainline SW1, number 78 for Great Northern. So I'm going to keep, they're both kind of the same thing, you know, small road switchers. This layout has a very simple operation. It's very nice the way everything is set up because you've got the passing siding, you've got industries on the inside. One thing that will hinder operations without this section here is you can only switch out a couple cars at a time. I found a couple of sneaky ways to get around that, which you will probably see. But essentially what I'm going to do right now for the first bit of the operating session is I'm going to take 3 of these coal cars, I'm going to run around the layout, take 3 of those coal cars, put them into the power plant, run around again, and then we'll switch a couple cars at a time out in the center section here for the industries. Some of the industries I have on this layout, I've got my passenger station, which will not be in use during this operating session. I'll probably wait until I get the extension out over here. I've got an auto restoration and repair shop here, which is actually not part of the operations, it's just an industry. We have the coal plant over here, which will handle 3 to 4 coal cars at a time. We have the brewery / co-op over here, which will handle 2 cars at a time, 3 depending on the length. And then we also have a team track over here, which will handle 2 to 3 cars at a time. And then they have kind of the storage track over there, which will get swapped out eventually with cars in either the team track or this track here. That's considered the yard or waiting area. And then we also have these tracks over here, which will be used for storing equipment temporarily, freight cars, whatever. And then, of course, we have the main line, which is the main loop around the outside. And this is the branch line, and that's what I'll be referring this to as. This will be these 2 will be the team tracks, and then that'll be the storage track / yard track. The office you see over there, that is the Seaman office. I've got an old water tower and a TM shelter, which would be here as a museum piece until I get my layout up and running for my traction. So without any further ado, we'll get moving here. And one of the things I'll be using today, so I'm not actually handling the cars with my hands, because with weathered equipment, you don't want to smear the weathering. Even if you put on a couple coats of dull coat, sometimes it doesn't seal it all the way. So I'll be using this little kebab stick here to uncouple and couple the cars, line things up, move them about. So hopefully I don't have to touch anything with my hands today. So I've already got my locomotives programmed into each of these throttles, and we'll get started. You have to forgive my RS3 here, it's a little bit slow. It's at approximately 200 hours of runtime, so there's a little bit of lag in the gears and the motor. The lights are kind of dim, they don't always work. It's almost like operating with the real thing. So in the interest of operations, I'm going to throw this switch here. This is a number 6 Kato. This is non-power, or this is a power routing switch. So that way it'll route power to either track, and I can flip the switch and it will, because it is sprung, that allows me to let the cars pass over without derailing. Oh, didn't make it in time. The difference between the number 6 switches and then the number 4s here is that these are not power routing switches. Or excuse me, yes, they are power routing switches, but because the points are not isolated, if you throw the switch and you have something coming from the other direction, it will short out the system and you'll need to reset it and you gotta start all over again. So that's one downside to those switches. And it can be a pain, but it's just something you work with. Now later on, I'll be setting up all the switches to have the throws being able to be thrown by the, or to have the remote throws installed. And that'll happen over by the DCC system. You can see my headlights are just barely on, they're very dim. Sometimes just tapping it works, sometimes they don't want to work at all. So we're going to take 3 coal cars here, the last 3 in the train. We're going to dump those inside the building here. And we'll be on our way to make a loop under the outside. And we'll swap out a couple of cars. For those of you who are regularly keeping up to date with stuff going on in my layout, you might notice I have some more pavement down, some more grade crossings, some things have been moved around a little bit. I'll make another pass as I get this guy ready here. One thing you may find with this locomotive, I don't think the camera will ever be in the direct path of the light of the headlights, but they are very, very intense lights. They are very bright. We'll go like this. What I'm going to do is run over. I'm going to grab this reefer here. I'm going to put it on the track over here behind the auto or the restoration facility in the shop. Excuse me. And that way it'll be out of the way. First thing I'll do is I'll rotate these cars because these have been used up and these will go in there next. And this is where not having cluttered industries helps, because you have space to store cars when you have a lack of track elsewhere. I actually try to avoid looking into the headlight of this locomotive because it is very, very bright. So we'll go like this. And you can operate this layout however you like. There are multiple systems out there, car cards and waybills, JMRI, and other systems for car routing and whatnot. I prefer just to do it by just looking at the layout, seeing what's where, how my industries are set up, and exchanging things as necessary. So what I'll do is I'll put these cars into this industry. I'll drop off the tank car and the Wisconsin Central box car over here to get picked up by that train and swapped out for the for 2 cars, and then I'll swap out the CEFX reefer for the center beam that's in right now. One of the problems with these sticks is that if you get something on a sharp curve, such as a switch here, it can be a pain to uncouple the cars. There we go. Let's move that guy back. There we go. I'll throw the switch back here. What I try to do during an operating session is keep one locomotive for the short line in the industries and keep one on the main line. It just helps things a little bit. You can easily operate all of this with one locomotive. It just takes a little bit more time and a little bit more work and running around. So put this guy back in the hole here by the water tower. And we'll park him. So I make sure I put him on the brake section so I don't pump the throttle and have him take off, and I turn the headlight off, showing that it's not an active engine right now. So now I'll grab my Milwaukee road train and I'll divert it on towards the siding to operate the industries. And I'll exchange the Escanaba and Lake Superior boxcar and the Burlington Northern Covered Hopper for these two. It's always a good idea before an operating session to clean your track and everything, so that way everything's nice and clean. And if you do it regularly, you'll never have to worry about having issues. Alright, there's a good demonstration. When you throw the switch like that prematurely and it makes contact with both sides at the same time, it'll do that. I did mean that as a demonstration, but I just wanted to show you. It shorted out the system, and as it rebooted, the engine caught enough energy to move off. So here we'll move back. Grab these cars here real quick. I actually need to trim the pins on this coupler here. But I'll worry about that later. I'll have to block traffic here for a moment. Something that frequently happens in the prototype. Bring those up just a little bit. There we go. One thing that's nice about having highly detailed cars is that they look nice when you're operating. You can appreciate the detail. But another thing is they're a pain to operate around because you never know if you're going to break something. I haven't yet, but the day will come. So now that I have that hooked up, I'm ready to take off. Now that that's set, I'll grab another throttle here, throw the switch so I don't have to worry about any interference on the siding, and I'll get back to work. So what I'm going to do, as I said, I'd swap these out next. But before I do that, I need to get these guys out of the way. So they'll go in the hole here. Got a seaman in office. coupler alignment issue. I've started switching all my equipment over to the whisker couplers, the semi-scales. They seem to work a little bit better, less uncoupling issues, on sharp or odd curves and whatnot. And some of the equipment I have here from Exact Rail and other brands came with semi-scales, and I haven't changed out the coupler pockets yet because they have that little copper spring in there. And sometimes they'll wear out, especially if it's stored on a curve or something. Yeah, it can become an issue, like with this car. So eventually, as it becomes a problem, I swap them out for the whiskers, just as stuff gets operated and worn in. So we got a good couple there. What's nice with this train line, Walther's mainline locomotive is it has very smooth operation, which makes it very handy for moving around equipment for slow speed operation. Some manufacturers are getting better about it. If you use a back EMF type decoder, that can help too. There are different ways of getting around that. Smoother, upgrade your drive lines or motors, flywheels and whatnot. But let me move this over a little bit more. There we go. That should be good. Just enough clearance. I've seen instances in the real world application of switching where places get pretty close to scraping cars. And I mean within just inches of it. And so when you do it on a model railroad, it's not unrealistic. I don't think there's much you can do on a model railroad as far as operations that would be out of question in the real world. Odds are, if you can do it on a model railroad, they've probably done it. So we'll take this guy out. Try to avoid getting hit over here. There we go, we'll put them back in the hole by the water tower. Go. We'll bring this guy in, and then I'll pause for a short break to take care of a couple things real quick.